The wedding hall was beautiful. Soft white flowers covered every table. Warm lights filled the room. Quiet music played as guests smiled and waited for the ceremony to begin. Everyone looked toward the front row. Two special seats were still empty. Those seats belonged to the bride's parents. People whispered to each other. They must be on their way. They wouldn't miss their own daughter's wedding. But they were wrong. The bride stood calmly behind the closed doors. She looked at the empty seats only once. There were no tears in her eyes, no anger, no fear. She took a slow breath and smiled. Then she quietly looked at the wedding planner. "We're ready," she said. The planner looked surprised. "Are you sure you don't want to wait a little longer?" The bride gently shook her head. No, they already made their choice. No one in the room understood what those words really meant. Her parents were not late because of traffic. They were not sick. There was no family emergency. Instead, they were enjoying a luxury vacation with the bride's younger sister. They had skipped their own daughter's wedding because they did not want their favorite child to cancel her holiday. Most people would have cried. Most people would have begged their parents to come. But this bride had already made a different decision weeks before the wedding. If her parents could choose a vacation over the most important day of her life, then she would stop choosing them. Forever. She would not argue. She would not scream. She would not ask for another chance. She would simply close the door they had spent years leaving half open. As the wedding music started, the guests smiled and stood up. The bride walked down the aisle with confidence. No one knew that this beautiful wedding was also the beginning of the quietest revenge her family would ever experience. And it all started with one simple message her mother had sent 3 weeks earlier. 3 weeks before the wedding, the bride's phone rang while she was checking the final guest list. The screen showed one name, Mom. She smiled and answered. She thought her mother was calling to ask about flowers or food. Instead, her mother's voice sounded cold. "We need to talk." That evening, the whole family gathered around the dining table. Her father sat quietly with his arms crossed. Her younger sister looked excited, almost like she already knew what would happen. The bride felt something was wrong. Her mother placed a travel brochure on the table. "Your sister booked a family vacation months ago," she said. "It starts on the same weekend as your wedding." The bride looked at the brochure, then back at her parents. "I know," she replied, "but my wedding date has been booked for almost a year." Her mother nodded. "That's why we want you to move the wedding." The room became silent. She thought they were joking. The wedding hall was paid for. The photographer was booked. Guests had already bought plane tickets. Everything was ready. "You can't be serious," she whispered. Her father finally spoke. "Your sister has spent a lot of money on this trip. It wouldn't be fair to ask her to cancel." The bride stared at both of them. For the first time, she realized they were not asking. They were expecting her to give up her dream without a fight. Across the table, her sister avoided eye contact but could not hide a small smile. The bride took a deep breath. She stayed calm. Then she asked one simple question. "If I say no, will you really choose her vacation over my wedding?" No one answered. Their silence told her everything she needed to know. The room stayed silent for several long seconds. The bride looked from her mother to her father, hoping someone would laugh and say it was all a misunderstanding. No one did. Her mother finally spoke. "You know how much this vacation means to your sister." The bride answered softly. "And my wedding means nothing?" "Yeah, full sight. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Those words hurt more than she expected. She had spent 12 months planning her wedding. She had saved money, visited venues, chosen flowers, and invited family from different cities. Yet, in one short conversation, her parents acted as if all of that could simply disappear. Her younger sister finally joined the conversation. "I already paid for everything," she said. "Can't you just move the wedding by a few weeks?" The bride looked at her. "You knew my wedding date before you booked your trip." Her sister looked away without answering. That was all the proof she needed. This was never an accident. Her parents were asking only one daughter to make sacrifices, just like they always had. She remembered missing birthdays, giving up opportunities, and staying quiet whenever her sister wanted attention. This time felt different. This was not just another family dinner. This was the moment she had to choose between keeping the peace and respecting herself. She stood up slowly and picked up her handbag. "I've heard enough," she said calmly. Her mother frowned. So, what is your answer? The bride looked directly at both of her parents. My wedding will stay on the planned date. She smiled politely. I won't ask anyone to choose. You'll make that decision yourselves. Without another word, she walked toward the front door. Behind her, the house remained completely quiet. No one tried to stop her. The next morning, she woke up before sunrise. Her phone was filled with missed calls. Not one of them asked how she was feeling. Every message carried the same idea. Please think about your sister. You should keep the family together. A wedding date can be changed. She read each message quietly before putting her phone face down on the table. Then she picked up a notebook. Instead of writing angry replies, she made a different list. The wedding venue, the photographer, the florist, the guests who had already booked flights. Every name on the page reminded her how many people had worked hard to celebrate with her. She would not disappoint them. That afternoon, her fiancé came home carrying 2 cups of coffee. He noticed her tired eyes, but also saw something new. She looked stronger. He sat beside her and gently asked, "Are you okay?" She smiled. "I think I finally understand something." "What is it?" "I've spent years trying to earn love that should have been given freely." He held her hand without saying a word. Sometimes silence was kinder than advice. Later that evening, another message arrived from her mother. It was only one sentence. "If you don't change the wedding date, don't expect us to be there." She read it twice. Then she locked her phone. There were no tears, no shouting, no desperate phone call. She simply looked at her fiancé and said, "Now I know exactly where I stand." Outside, the rain had stopped. For the first time in many years, she felt completely certain about her next step. Whatever happened on her wedding day, she would walk toward it with peace instead of fear. 2 days later, the bride mailed the final invitations. Every envelope was sealed with care. Every guest received the same message. The ceremony will take place as planned. There was no new date. There was no apology. She had made her decision. That evening, her father called again. This time, she answered. His voice was calm but firm. "Your mother is very upset." She listened without interrupting. "You still have time to fix this," he continued. "Your sister has dreamed about this vacation for months." The bride closed her eyes for a moment. "And I have dreamed about my wedding for years," she replied. Her father had no answer. Instead, he changed the subject. "What will people think if we're not there?" She almost laughed. For the first time, she realized they were worried about their reputation, not her happiness. She answered quietly, "People will think whatever they want." Then she ended the call. That weekend, she met the wedding planner for the final meeting. They walked through the decorated hall together. Everything looked beautiful. The planner smiled. "It's going to be a perfect day." The bride smiled back. "I believe it will." On her way home, she received several photos from social media. Her younger sister was shopping for new clothes for the vacation. Their mother was smiling beside her. The caption read, "Family time is priceless." The bride looked at the pictures for a few seconds. Then she locked her phone. She did not feel angry anymore. She felt free. At that moment, she made one final promise to herself. After the wedding, she would stop chasing people who never chose her. If her parents wanted to live as though they had only one daughter, she would finally give them exactly what they had chosen. The wedding week finally arrived. Friends and relatives began traveling from different cities. The hotel lobby was busy with happy conversations. Everyone was excited for the celebration. The bride spent the morning checking the last few details. The flowers had arrived. The cake looked beautiful. The musicians finished their rehearsal. Everything was ready. Her phone stayed quiet. There were no messages from her parents. No questions. No congratulations. It felt strange, but it no longer surprised her. That afternoon, her best friend sat beside her. "Do you still hope they will come?" she asked gently. The bride looked out the window. "I hoped for many years," she answered. "Now I'm simply ready." Her friend squeezed her hand. "You deserve people who choose you." Those words stayed with her. Later that evening, another relative called. "I just spoke with your parents," the woman whispered. "They already reached the beach. They said your wedding can happen without them." For a moment, the room became completely silent. The bride thanked her for the call and slowly put the phone away. She did not cry. Instead, she opened a small box on her desk. Inside was a handwritten letter she had written to herself months earlier. It contained only one promise: never beg for love that should be given freely. She folded the letter and smiled. The next morning, she walked into the wedding hall before anyone else arrived. The front row was already prepared. 2 chairs carried her parents' names. She stared at them for a long moment. Then she called the wedding planner. "Please remove the name cards," she said calmly. The planner hesitated. "Are you sure?" The bride nodded with complete confidence. "Those seats belong to people who truly want to be here." For the first time since the engagement, she felt completely at peace. Outside, the first guests were beginning to arrive.